Welcome to Mortgage on My Mind, where we take the mystery out of mortgages and make dreams of home ownership a reality. I'm Natalie Salins, a top 1% mortgage broker with 20 years of experience, based right here in sunny Los Angeles. If you've ever wondered about pre-approvals, appraisals, or what loan product is right for you, don't worry, I've got Mortgage on My Mind, so you don't have to. Each week, I'll bring you expert advice, real-life stories, and insider tips to help you navigate California's competitive real estate market with confidence. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or just curious about how it all works, this podcast is for you. So let's talk mortgages, demystify the process, and make your real estate goals a reality. Ready to get started? Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mortgage on My Mind. Today we have an incredible architect and realtor with us, Michael Abraham. He is a seasoned real estate professional and partner at AMRE Real Estate Group in Los Angeles, part of Compass. He specializes in residential and multifamily investment properties as well. He owns them. He's got over 20 years combined experience. His team delivers white glove service and strategic advisory for every transaction. He actually has this rare combination of architectural training and real estate acumen, and it gives his clients, of course, an edge in evaluating properties and maximizing their value and navigating the nuances of LA's crazy kind of dynamic housing market. Welcome, Michael. Nice to have you on.
Thank you, Natalie. When I hear my summary and bio, I'm impressed. So I guess I'm flattered to have you articulate it like that. But yes, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how you got started. Tell us what is your architecture background? What does that all look like?
Sure. I think this would be my third career, maybe my fourth.
Okay.
Right out of college, I got into the internet space, and that became a focus of mine as a designer. And I guess there was something about it that didn't really stick for me. So I went back to school to become an architect. And I did that for a number of years out in LA. I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I was moving from New York, where I went to school there. And I just didn't love the day-to-day of it. And at the time, Silicon Beach was taking shape, and I got excited about getting back into the space. And so what I basically did, I worked for an architect for a couple of years, and then I ended up running a marketing and design company for over a decade. But I still was intrigued about real estate. I still wanted to start buying property, and I basically started investing in duplexes and leveraging my expertise in architecture and interior design. And then when I sold my marketing company, I figured I'd go full time into real estate because that became my passion.
Okay. Awesome. And how is it? How's working for Compass, and how do you like your team? And
I would say that I came into the market at a difficult time, but then again, I've done this before. I feel very fortunate. I teamed up with Anya DePube, who was my broker on my first property I purchased, and I called her out of the blue to get advice, really more than anything. And she said, I think you'd be good at real estate. She's with Compass, which is very tech forward, and my background is in marketing, design, and technology. So it felt like a good fit. Coming up on a year, and it's been great. I would say that it's definitely challenging, and that no matter what skills I believe I possessed prior to doing this, it's definitely reevaluated how to focus my energy. You can't market your way to success. You can't brand your way to success in this business. It's really about just meeting people, demonstrating value, and working hard. And I would say that things are taking shape, and it feels good.
nice, beautiful. And so now tell us a little bit about the history of you as an architect. Like, how did you get into it and everything like that?
I would say it was not the traditional way. Most people who become architects, it's in their bones. It's like they want to
Yeah.
their kids. I always like to build and design and create things, but I think going back to school, because I went back to get my master's, I think was impatient. And I think that was a challenge for me, and ended up working for an architecture firm that worked on institutional projects and dealerships and schools. And so there wasn't this personal connection that I think I would have really got a lot out of. And I didn't find it that exciting. And I was more excited about starting my own company. And everyone kept telling me, oh, you're very talented. Just be patient, 5, 10 years. And I thought to myself, I could just quit this job and become the boss overnight, which again,
Right.
learning what I learned now, there's the old saying, you give up your 9 to 5 job for a 5 to 9 job. But I
Yeah.
still, that's how I'm built. And obviously, every agent is an entrepreneur. There's really no paycheck coming your way. It's just you get paid what business you bring in. So that's just my natural instincts. And so I now enjoy working on my own projects. So renovations of single family and multifamily homes. So I get to combine my skills in design and architecture into that. And that's about all I need at the moment. I would still hire an architect if I took on any big project.
Oh, you would. Okay.
Yes. I would.
Interesting.
My first project, I did a lot of the permitting and the sourcing and the design. I
Mm,
thought, but I would rather collaborate on that, and I would handle probably the interior and handle like the space planning and work closely with an architect. But what an architect brings to the table is not just design; it's getting permits approved, figuring out the best way to organize things, and
right.
they do it every single day. Just like I would recommend working with an agent. You don't have to, but they do it every day, and they bring a lot of expertise. That's my strategy.
Yeah. And so would you say that you obviously would be somebody extremely helpful and knowledgeable when purchasing like flips, for
A-
instance?
Absolutely. The average
Yeah.
home in LA is about 60 years old. So there isn't a single home in LA that doesn't need some type of work. You could buy a new construction project, but they're really few and far between. And I really look at real estate as a investment strategy, a value add. I call it a lifestyle investment. You might be better off putting your money into an Amazon or a different stock, but what enjoyment do you get from that? So to me, owning real estate is a great way to combine both something that you want and need, you need shelter, but also something that will appreciate. And when I look at a
Totally.
property, I think to myself, somebody might be turned off by the flooring or the bathroom, and I say these are all very manageable fixes. If you like the location, and you like the overall structure of the home, that if you have a little bit of budget, time, not only do you get what you want, but you actually will create value instantaneously, which is really important.
Yeah, totally, totally. We do renovation loans, of course, and they take a little bit longer because we have to have contractor bids and we have to have all that approved because the value is based on after renovation. So the appraiser has to go out with approved bids and then he appraises the value based on those renovation bids. It has
Mhm.
to, of course, meet eye to eye. Um, and on those renovation, if you can get them, if a seller is willing to wait to do a renovation loan for the buyers, it is so fulfilling for the buyer to be able to put in their own flooring and their
Mhm.
own cosmetic touches in the kitchen with their own cabinets and countertops and all of that kind of stuff. And everybody that I've worked with that have been able to do renovation loans are really so appreciative at the end because not only do they get to see the house as they would build it themselves, but the amount of equity that they earn just from redoing it with even just a small amount of 40, 50,000 buys them sometimes 80 to 100,000 in equity. And it's quite amazing if you can do it. It's tough in LA because sellers don't ever want to wait for things like that. But right
Yeah.
now, there's some things sitting on the market, and a seller might be willing to do a 45 day because of it.
From my perspective, there's a lot of inventory on the market. And let me phrase, we have less inventory than we've had in a long time, but the stuff that's there is quality inventory and it is sitting. As relatively mortgages are still low, but comparatively over the past 5 to 10 years, they are high. So its perception needs to kind of change. I'll talk to someone and they'll be like, oh, back in the 90s, I got a 12% mortgage. And
Yeah,
I think the big thing is when I hear that, also everything just was costless. So it was not really a one-to-one. It's not just that rates might be relatively lower, things cost a lot of money. The appreciation in that Los Angeles alone has been really high. But all that being
yeah,
said, I still feel like if you can get into a home, you should. And if you can get into a home and then take the time to renovate it to your liking, it's invaluable. I'm often disappointed as an architect and a designer. When I see things, I'm just underwhelmed by a lot of the renovations. And so that's even more frustrating going to a place that, like, please, every floor should have a beveled edge. Otherwise, it looks just like a laminate floor, or there's a mix match in the colors. It's just, I don't know. A lot of developers, I just think, send their contractor to Home Depot and just say, buy what the first thing you bumped into. And unfortunately, most people
exactly.
don't want that product, especially when we're looking at the price point. Maybe that's okay for
A rental.
a rental. Exactly. You don't walk into a rental and say, oh my goodness, I want brass fixtures. You just are happy
Right.
with the location and that that it's nice enough.
And the utilities are working. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Your expectations are lower. So that's something I also find is that the quality renovations go very quickly. And so that goes to show you that if you were to buy a place, live in there 5, 10 years, and you do a nice renovation, it will definitely help. And it will, like you said, create value instantaneously.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, how would you, do you, when you go out to a property, let's say for the first time, do
Mhm.
you understand, are there tools or methods to understanding like a hidden value when it comes to that?
Ultimately, it's having the buyer see the potential. And they'll walk in and immediately say things, oh, I don't like the backyard. And I just say, listen, for honestly, between $5,000 and $15,000, you could build a deck. You could throw in a French door. You can do landscaping, and you will almost double. You could increase your square footage, livable space by 400 square feet. Oh, okay. I didn't think about that. Because
Right.
sometimes it's just a matter of indoor-outdoor flow, which is why people love LA. But sometimes it's hard to perceive. And that's just what I do every day. I can almost memorize every single space I've ever been into. You said, what's this house like? And I can visualize it in my head.
Yeah,
So a superpower I have, but at the same time, it still is going to take time to work with a contractor. There is no magic wand for getting it done quicker. I always say you pay a contractor to finish, not start. And so working with good people, I've worked with a ton of people in LA, and I've also always go first to my network before I recommend anyone. I just keep coming back to the same guys and gals that do good work.
of course. And I know contractors are pretty tough here in LA. Do you have people that you work with that you trust and that you feel are,
Absolutely, absolutely. There's plenty of very qualified people. I think oftentimes you have to ask yourself, did you really pick the right person? Oh, I went with the cheapest, or I didn't call any of the references, or every time they asked for more money, I said no, even if it was a reasonable request. You have to treat people with respect. Over the course of my career, I probably hired thousands of people. That's not an exaggeration because I've been running my own business for almost over 15 years. My theory is very simple. Treat everybody well, know when they're going to be above and beyond. If you know they're doing more than they should, just I always see a contract sometimes as what you're paying them is the potatoes, but what the little extra is the gravy, and people they want their gravy, and that's just being cognizant that they're going above and beyond. And if you do that, when you're demanding and obnoxious to somebody, they'll get the job done, but they don't want to work with you. And I think you have to be considerate. They don't work just for you. And I find that's the problem is that someone hires someone that thinks they only work with them and they're very inflexible. And this creates challenges. Some people just do a bad job. They walk off the project. That does happen. I've
the
never had
contractors, yeah.
it can
The
happen.
renovation loans I've done, they're good, but slow. Contractors tend to be slow, and I like to do things very quickly. And there's a precedent in LA that we will do things very quickly and get things done and close in 12 days and
Yes.
do what we can. Contractors have a totally different vibe, so I always get worried when it comes to contractors. But only once in all the years I've been doing this, and I've been doing renovation loans for a long time, only once and it was like a week before closing, the contractor that we had signed on, who had done the bids, had done
Mhm.
everything, just disappeared. Totally
So
MIA, like basically pulled it.
the house I'm living in now was gutted down to the studs. So there's a story I was recently telling that. And I took on a lot of ownership. So I basically did go with the least expensive contractor, but he came highly recommended from a friend of mine. And at one point, we're working on the project, and contractor says to me, "So it looks like it's going to rain. What do you want to do about the hole in the roof?" This is the first I'm hearing about the hole in the roof.
Oh no.
To fix the roof. So in a matter of 48 hours, I hired someone to refinish the entire roof. I got it done. Not only that, he also wound up in the hospital for about a week or two, and just because of hard living it still got done, and it was a great guy, but it was definitely took a lot of oversight and involvement. And I've talked to people who do development deals and that they'll build homes worth $10 million and they still go to the job site every other day.
Yeah.
And that's someone who's hiring really professional teams. It's not as if people are lazy, it's just their vision is different, or their vision can be different than yours, or just in the end, you could build a giant home, but when you get to a really high price point, every square inch matters. And that's something I'm really surprised by is how many developers they leave little things unfinished. And I just saw this today, some agent was really insisting on my feedback. And I say, well, you really did a lousy job where the wall dies into the the, the steps. Imagine if this is a drywall.
That's something that you offer, right? Like your eye in that.
Sure. And what
Yeah.
I said to them, I said, when I saw that, I thought to myself, that sloppy work makes me wonder what other work was done sloppy that I don't see. So I said it just to them. I didn't say it
Yeah.
to anyone else. And so attention to detail is really important. It will come back to haunt you. If you just try to cover up something, I had a friend just walk away from a deal because they basically just they didn't really address a lot of the structural issues. There was a lot of mold and rot, and they just basically put up new drywall. So that's why you have inspections. So I can go on and on. There are a lot of very
Totally.
qualified people, but occasionally you might find a dud.
Right. Right. And what do you think first-time home buyers should know about purchasing and financing smarter properties, meaning like common blind spots and how to avoid them? Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the duplex. So there are a lot of duplexes in Los Angeles. I'm a big fan of South LA. I own some property here, and I feel like it's still a great market for appreciation. The price points are more manageable than the rest of the city. And the reason I love a duplex is they already are living in a smaller home in Los Angeles, just a given. And so
Yeah.
with that being said, you can often buy two properties, but just you have less space, but you're collecting rent roll. So when you offset rent roll against your mortgage or your property tax and all that combined, it really makes a really noticeable impact to your monthly spend. So to
Mhm.
me, you're able to buy more and you're looking at it as an investment and you're willing to be there, not thinking this is maybe your forever home, which again is a crazy thought. You never know how life will unfold. If that's not the case,
Isn't it like 90% of first-time home buyers stay for 5 to 7 years? Something so high.
LA is higher than other areas for a variety of reasons. I think it's 12 years in Los Angeles, others areas. And obviously,
Interesting. Yeah.
this is a nationwide thing where everything's becoming more expensive. And I don't see that changing. I just don't see it. But that can go on. If you're a first-time home buyer, one, things you have to have a reserve, right? There's not just the down payment and the which is 20%, and you need 6 months of of payments towards your mortgage and your bank account. So you know all this stuff. This is what you do every
Not
single.
always, but yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. I also say
Yeah,
always talk to a mortgage lender to understand the versatility of what you can do. We got someone a
totally.
$1,000 grant that was because of where they purchased, nothing to do with them. So there are a lot of opportunities out there, and so they need to explore them. So to me, each one of these is a strategy. Where you get your money from is a strategy, how you deploy it. Do you want to pay more now? Do you want to pay down some points? So all this goes into your overall planning, and we'll work with someone on that. But obviously, we advise them to talk to experts and say, but I still always say, if you can get into a property and you can own it, when you compare renting versus buying, I, I
There's no comparison. Yeah.
every way I slice it, and I know there's always somebody on Instagram saying rent owning's a liability and renting isn't. I'm like, the reality is most people are not really good with their money. So if you could own a property and have leveraged debt that appreciate between 4 and 6%, which again is not a guarantee, but over 100 years has been pretty good. That's
And
a
that's
pretty
pretty low
good
for
return.
LA.
Yes, that's you. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. So you and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
And I also realize not everybody is ready. And so I've learned at first, it was the second word out of my mouth was real estate. And so I've learned over time that I'll bring it up, but some people aren't interested. They've made up their mind or they can't afford it. And either way, I'm not going to force someone to
Of
talk about
course.
the subject.
Yeah. When people aren't ready, sometimes they just aren't ready, even if it really is in their best interest and just
Yeah.
really set to benefit them in the best way, of
Yeah.
course. So then I was going to ask, do you have any like case examples of where we're merging the design of real estate and architecture? Like any case examples of where this knowledge of yours has saved the day? Or like through inspections or something happened, and because you have this other whole base that you were able to make it work and turn it around.
I should say yes. I would say that being conscientious and understanding what goes into things alleviates people's fears because every single deal, there's always euphoria in the beginning and then concern and then doubt and just guiding someone through the process, realizing that in the end, when they're all said and done, when they look back on a year from now, they'll be so happy with this decision. And so it really is just giving somebody the confidence, the clarity and the confidence to really get it done. And that's because I guess you could say because I've done it, I'm not speaking hypothetically. I have bought, renovated, and rented out properties. So I know what it's like and I know the benefit. I've seen the appreciation with the things I've owned, and I'm not a
Sure.
real estate wizard. Okay. I found a property, one in West Adams. I didn't know a lot about it. 2 weeks later, the New York Times wrote an article about being the up and coming location. Trust me, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I have people say things like, "Oh, if I only bought 20 years ago," and my retort is very simple: "Are you leaving now?" "Oh, no, no." "So do you think it's getting worse now?" I'm like, "How is this going to be any different when we have this conversation in 10 years?"
It's true. I say to people all the time who are like, came to me 2 years ago or whatever, and we didn't move forward because rates are high and they got nervous, and now they're back. Rates are the same as they were, and they waited and they
Yes.
lost 15, 18% in equity that they would have built. It's the people that
Yeah.
I put into homes 2 years ago. The property
Yeah.
is legitimately 15% or more higher now. And they're like, I'm so mad I didn't get in. The property that we looked at 2 years ago is worth so much more. And now we're looking at having to take the price point way up. And I'm like, I know. And remember then you were like, sorry that we're waiting and we're not sure what to do. And I said, it's fine. Don't look back because they're sad that they didn't do it then. And why should they start now? And I was like, but we don't want to have this conversation 2 years from now. Like, we don't want to
Yeah.
have this same conversation because it will be the same conversation 2 years from now. So I always say, dive into the asset. Don't
I
forget that it's an asset. You get to live in it too, but like dive into the asset of a home, you know?
I distinctly remember now reaching out to you because you had put together a document that basically said, if you buy now at this interest rate, this is what happens. If you buy now and the home appreciates 6%, that it's actually a net loss. So like you're better off even with where we are now at the appreciate at the current interest rate. And the reality is, I often tell people there is no other financial instrument that exists that allows what you can do with real estate. It's designed, the mechanism is designed for people to own homes in America. So that's something you should take advantage of. People say, "Oh, take advantage of taxes and take advantage of this, and you should expense this." There is no better instrument than you can borrow something over 30 years and pay it back. And in my opinion, there's people that
I
will
know.
pay it back, and but I've ran the numbers every which way. Yeah, you can outperform home ownership, of course, but I would say that even then, after 10 years, 20 years, do you get to enjoy your stocks as they appreciate? No, you get to
It's
enjoy
true,
your home, and
right?
your home gives you memories. Stocks give you agita as they go up and down.
Exactly. And then you have to pay an enormous amount of taxes if you ever actually pull out stock. And you really don't, there's so much you can do with the
Sure.
money that's earned in a home to not pay taxes on it. There's many ways around it. Even just if you live in it for 2 years, you and a partner live in it, two people live in it. After 2 years, $500,000 is granted to you tax-free, capital gain free. So that alone, you don't, there's no question when it comes to stocks.
If
And
you, I don't want to interrupt you. If you ask a
no,
lot of people just throughout LA that have been here 20, 30, 40 years, and you say, how'd you make your money? A lot of them are going to say real estate.
I think anywhere across the
Oh,
country, like
sure.
in especially in other parts of the country, people's retirement literally
Oh,
lives in their home. The
yes.
way that they buy their retirement home is through this home. The way that they help their children buy their home is through the home. Every bit of their wealth ends up being, not every bit, but most of it ends up being tied in the home because even a 401k, which is money that you have earned, doesn't end up enriching the way that a home does. It's just different. Yeah,
We're in agreement.
I know.
One of my clients, she's selling, and what I find really lovely is she built a home and she lived there for a few decades with her husband. She wants to downsize and she can't wait to go to the where she's moving. I feel like she's going off to college. She's, oh, my friend's going to be living in this unit. I'm going to be able to live in this unit, which I really find really wonderful because, my
Yeah,
perspective, you go there and it feels like it's not really wonderful, but she couldn't wait. And her home is going to be, it's worth millions.
yeah.
And this is more than I need, but it's nice to know it exists and that I have it. And it wasn't in the plan. It wasn't, that's not why they did it. That's not why they bought it. It's just what happens. Over time, things appreciate, and this is the market. And until LA becomes a place people don't want to live in, that's not changing. And the funny thing is, even places where people leave, they come back. From what I understand, Detroit is having a boom. They're spending billions of dollars to revitalize downtown and all this
Yeah.
happening. And again, the city constantly is changing, so you got to be mindful, but overall it's typically good.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about buying a house and getting a mortgage, and she was
Mm.
like a negative Nilly a little bit, but was like, all of this is about the bank making money off me. It's just the bank making money off me. And she was really like, I was like, okay. Like, how do I how do I answer somebody like that? And then I was like, all right, let's think about that. So when you sell this house 5 years from now and it's worth $200,000 more, who's making money now?
Mhm.
Like you're making money off the banks allowing you to borrow money from them, right? Like you're making that 200. Yes, the bank has made their share and you've taken that as a nice tax write-off actually because you're living in the home. But who's really making the money off of this? You are, honey. Let's really think about it that way. Yeah, they're making their share, but they're lending you the $1 million to get it.
Yeah,
And she
credit.
calmed down. She's like, I guess you can think of it that way. I was like, I feel like that's the only way to think of it.
Access to credit, the access to mortgages is one of the most powerful things, and really one of the things that really drives this economy in a lot of ways. And just take advantage of it. I don't recommend people become real estate investors. I don't think owning, renting is the best. I don't think every Airbnb is going to make you a millionaire.
It's
But
true.
you can figure it out. And I often look at real estate as what I call lifestyle investing, something that you're going to improve the quality of your life. It might not be the best investment you ever make, then again, it could be. And so when you look at it from that lens, you stop getting so nuanced on as long as you can carry the monthly cost, then I think that's really what matters. More likely than not, when you sell the home in 10 years or 12 years or however you decide to whatever you decide to do,
Yeah.
you'll have been happy you made the decision. And I can't guarantee it, but that's basically been what it is for the past, I don't know how many decades. And we've had ups and downs, but it still rebounds if you're patient. But when again, you're not obsessed about it. You're not thinking, you're not looking every single day, what's your home worth? As the way you do.
Exactly. Sit, live in it. You know your mortgage payment, you forget about it after a while, and then you wake up one day and you've got a ton of equity. Even though now with online sources and Redfins and things like that, most people know the value of their home. It's crazy. When I used to do people's, I've been in the business now almost
Yeah.
20 years, right? So when I used to do people's refinances 15 years ago, and you like, what do you think the value is? People are like, oh God, I have no idea. I haven't even thought about what the value is.
Yeah,
Well, what?
that's
I guess I need to reach out to my realtor that I bought it from and they can do some comps. And you ask people
yeah,
now, what do you think
yeah,
the value is? And they're like 1,355, and
yeah.
that's what, like everybody knows exactly.
Everyone has a, oh,
It's so funny.
I don't love all those online tools because they're aggregating a lot of data. But yes, they give you a rough estimate. They do not include any renovations or home
Nothing. Yeah,
repairs.
exactly.
So in that regard, they're a little bit behind. But if you just want to get a sense of where you are, you can just go online and see what your neighbor's home sold for. You can see what the average price per square foot is. You don't have to be, mathematician to know the average value of your home, which is good to know. And in the end, every single agent will be happy to do a CMA, competitive market analysis for you. That won't cost you anything. You're just happy to
Yeah.
help because in the end, a good agent just stays top of mind and does what they can for people. And eventually, when they decide to sell a home, they'll think, oh, they were helpful and they seem knowledgeable and they reach out to you. Beyond that, you it's good to know the value of your home. I know.
Yeah. An approximate value. As you said, it's
Yeah.
really, there's no understanding of renovation or anything.
Yeah.
I also can pull an AVM, like approximate value meter, and it's a great tool. I can pull it anytime. It pulls the recent comps in the area, what it's sold for, everything. But it has absolutely no idea what's been done to the house since the last sale. So how accurate can it actually be? So you take it with a grain of salt, really.
I've owned real estate for a while now, and I've looked at real estate every day, and I still sometimes think to myself when I'll have a conversation, oh, I could have bought something in north of Montana. It was 2.6 million, someone was telling me, and this is 7, 8 years ago, and that seems like the steal of the century. Whenever I hear about what you could have bought 5 years ago, it seems incomprehensible, which I don't know why 5 years from now that won't be the same feeling. And so when somebody's
Yeah.
wearing, I remind them, LA minus some of the challenges, it will be great. And I think the Olympics is actually going to be a catalyst for positive change. I think the World Cup will be a catalyst. I think
Yeah.
even the light rail, which I don't use, I'm seeing it as something that people will start using. It'll be a connective tissue because if one person has a phone, it's useless. If everybody has one, then suddenly everyone needs one. So suddenly, maybe because I can get to the few more places, I'm just thinking out loud here. I just even the
Yeah.
Louvre Museum, all these things create, I won't say,
Positive economy, even all of it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure we need to be revitalized, but I do think that this city took some hits during COVID, and obviously we have a lot of bureaucracy, it makes it hard to build. But all that being said,
The
something.
city took hits during the fires, and the city
Yes,
we've had
yeah,
a tough time in the past 6 months, no question. But
yes.
we are definitely feeling like it's back and everybody feels okay and positive again. And yes, the Olympics will definitely help when it comes to that. Yeah.
It's a resilient state. It's a resilient city.
Yeah.
This is the city of evolution and change since it was discovered, from
Yeah.
entertainment to oil to aeronautics to technology to entertainment. It just people keep finding ways to reinvent the city, and I think that will keep happening. I hope we become the greenest, most tech forward, sustainable, highly educated city in the world.
Yeah.
We are the biggest city in the fourth largest economy. To me, we should be 10x better, but
Yeah.
still good.
Yeah, it is. It's because it's so diverse. The city
Yeah,
really is. We have from this to this living in the city, and that's what kind of makes it beautiful as well.
yeah, I
I have
agree.
friends that came from Charlotte, and last week they were here for 4 or 5 days or whatever. They every day they were like, "Is this the weather? Is this really the weather? Like it's hot during the day and then cools down at night to this gorgeous temperature, just gorgeous all the time." And I was like, that's why
Yeah.
people pay the taxes they do. People get upset on the taxes here, and I'm like, are you kidding? Have you seen the what? Like, you pay taxes because this is a gorgeous place to live and people want to live here, and that's why you pay taxes.
Yeah, part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, totally. Is there anything else that you would like to share, would like the audience to know before we?
I think we covered a lot. There's
Yeah.
nothing else. Obviously, I'm here to help, and I think that's something that's important, is most people don't realize that I work on commission, and in the end, we want to be a value add. I'm a believer in real estate, so I'll talk to anyone and guide them, and I'll point them in the right direction because I truly believe that it's an impactful way to build wealth, and I think it's important. Where you live is
Yeah.
it's where you spend a lot of your time. So it's good to really love it, or at least feel connected to it, and owning it definitely is, I think, the first step. So
Changes everything. Yeah.
yeah, so that's it. I'm happy to be on this podcast, and here to help anyone that wants to talk real estate or just anything in general.
Yeah. It was wonderful speaking with you. Thank you so much for sharing. All of your information will be in the below in the info box. I know, Michael has a lot of social media. He's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, has a channel everywhere, and a great website as well. So we'll share all of that info so that the listeners can reach out when they
Thank
need
you.
to. Yeah, awesome. It was wonderful speaking with you. Hope to talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Mortgage on My Mind. If you're ready to start your mortgage journey or have any questions, I'd love to help. With 20 years of experience, I make the process as simple and stress-free as possible. Check the show notes for my contact info, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. Until next time, I'm Natalie Salins, here to help make your real estate dreams a reality.